Welcome back to today's personal finance show here on Dublin City FM with me, Paul Merriman from askpaul.ie. My guest for today, the man, the myth, the legend that is Gerry Hussey. Gerry, you're very welcome to the show.
Hi Paul, thanks a million. Thanks for the song.
You're very welcome. So guys, those that might not be familiar with Gerry and his work, Gerry is a best-selling author and a leading health and performance coach, and I have to say he's also my personal performance coach. I've worked with Gerry for the last few years now, and I'm also proud to call him a very close friend. Can we talk about planning in life in general and how important that is? Whether it is, you know, the new job, starting a career, coming out of college, planning for retirement. It's not about the money. Forget about the money. We do this here on the show every week. How important is planning in different parts of people's lives?
Yeah, Paul, thanks a million. I think it's everything. And, you know, I'm a performance psychologist, and initially my life was about helping athletes prepare for World Championships, European Championships, Olympic Games, and thankfully we had a lot of success with boxing teams and cycling teams and athletes. And then I started to dig deeper, because if you go to the Olympic Games, what I noticed was the two busiest areas in the Olympic Village is the food hall, because everyone eats in the same food hall. It's packed all the time. And the second was a makeshift hospital. So every Olympic Games in the middle of the village has a big medical centre, and that's packed. Now you wonder, why are all these specimens getting sick?
Yeah, because they're the athletes, they're the best of the best, whether it's running or whatever they're doing. Yeah,
they're the best, the strongest, the physical, and yet the cues of sickness. When you imagine as an athlete, you spend your entire time training, preparing, putting everything on hold. This is your one shot at Olympic Games. You're ready to go. You get a cold, a flu, a virus, a gastro issue, you can't perform. And it was like, oh my God, such devastation for the athlete.
Yeah.
And when I started asking questions, why are so many of these athletes getting sick? People were like, it's just bad luck, just bad timing, picked up bacteria. But you have to go deeper than that. And what I discovered was a lot of them weren't managing stress. And the closer they got to stress was the more the immune system switched off. And that really made me realize the link between our daily activities, how we think, how we act, how we move, and the food we eat, and getting sick. For a long time, maybe like some listeners, I kind of believed you're unlucky to get sick, or that it kind of just fell out of the sky and you happen to have a heart attack or a stroke. But we know now that doesn't happen. We know there's a spectrum or a continuum, and people, depending on their daily activities, are either moving up and down that. Right. And if you can catch people who are pre-diabetic, pre-cancer, pre-heart attack, it's very easy to fix them. So lifestyle medicine, the work I do, is about planning and preparing for the future you want and trying to avoid all the pitfalls. Very few things happen in life just out of the sky.
Yeah.
Very few people wrote best-selling books without ever thinking about it. Very few people ever, you know, it's like the overnight success.
It doesn't happen. No, it doesn't happen. You're right.
Very few things in life just happen. So whether it's financial freedom, whether it's to buy your own home, whether it's to, you know, live a life of health, whether it's to live long enough and healthy enough to see your grandchildren, there's a huge role that we play in that. And of course there are some outside uncontrollable factors. We can't deny that. But the vast majority of the things that happen to us can be planned for.
Yeah.
And the problem is a lot of us are not planning for it. Mm-hmm. And then when it happens, we get such a shock. How did this happen? And when people say to me, how did this happen? If you ask an Olympic champion how did it happen and map back the last 10 years, he'll show you exactly how it happened. And even if someone had a heart attack and you say, well, how did this happen? You can usually track it back. Mm. How did someone get a mortgage? You can track it back. So I think, Paul, we have to start by going to the end and asking, what's the future goal I want to create? Yeah. What's the future thing I want to happen? And then track it back over the next 3 years, the next 36 months.
Yeah.
What do I do each and every day? And no matter how big the goal is, the things you need to do every day can be tiny.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, it's about putting everything in a bank, whether it's health, wellness, love, or money. Put tiny pieces, invest tiny pieces every single day into the right thing. And then you're not just building the right thing, but you're avoiding the wrong thing.
Right, very good, very good. Now, I must say, I'm obviously trying to stay away from the financial planning piece for this section because we do it all the time in the show, but everything you're saying is completely relevant to everything, whether it is the money or the health. One thing we'd always ask, we go in to do financial well-being talks for employees, is asked them to write down 3 financial goals. The big ones are usually get a mortgage, retire early, look after the kids, education costs. They're pretty the 3 I find all the time. But yet not many people have written down the goal, or not many people have planned the goal. They've all thought about the goal. So a lot of people I meet, and maybe in their 50s, I've always wanted to retire early, but it was never really possible. It would have been possible if they had it planned from their 20s or their 30s. When they actually start thinking about it, if they had to start planning from there, they would have been okay. So you're saying that really goes across all parts of your life, not just the finance piece, obviously.
It goes across. When I start working with athletes or working with people first, everyone's starting in a different place. So all I ask them sometimes, and anybody listen to this, maybe just close your eyes just for 60 seconds.
Unless you're driving. Or just think about, if I was to put you in a cinema, and there's nobody else in that cinema, and somehow I've managed to record your life over the last 6 months, and I've seen the food you're eating, I've seen the pace at which you're living, I've seen the way you're thinking, I listen to how hard you push yourself, I listen to the things you say to yourself, the sleep you're getting or not getting, the exercise you're taking or not taking. Now all I'm going to do is replay that video without judgment, without criticism. So what I'm asking to people is, when you look back over the last couple of months or the last 12 months, if you continue to do what you do, continue to eat the way you eat, live the way you live, do what you do, spend the way you spend, what does that look like in 10 years? That's called the compound effect. One tiny change in any aspect of our life over a day makes very little difference. Over weeks, makes a difference. A month, now you're seeing green shoots. A year, 5 years, and that for me is what we're talking about. It's getting to a state where you look at the wheel of your life and you have your finances, you have your physical health, you have your occupational health, you have all the different aspects of your life that are important. You begin to ask yourself, which of these out of 10 am I healthy in? So 10 is super healthy. You give them all a number. You're never going to have them all 10 out of 10. So don't be worrying about that. Yeah. But if you have certain wheels of your life, so like if your finances are 10 out of 10, but your physical health is 4, you're no point. Yeah. Now, if your physical health is 10, but your finances are 2, then that's going to cause great stress. So what I try to do is look at a holistic approach to life, using the health wheel that you use, something similar, and just trying to make sure every single day, every single week, what am I investing in each of those pillars so that I'm slowly growing each of them to where I need them to be. Very good. Very good. Yeah, it's a big one you tipped on there, is that people, I find, what we do, use the financial wheel, and the financial wheel will look at, pension, savings, investments, your mortgage, your tax, emergency funds, whether you have good debt or bad debt, short-term debt, long-term debt. So it's very similar. I always say to people, you're not going to get 10 out of 10. You're not supposed to be 10 out of 10 in finance anyway. But I do think when it comes to the wheel of life, you're supposed to be more rounded. Where the financial piece, you'll find some of your 20s won't have a mortgage or a pension. You don't want them to probably have anyway in most cases. But I think when it comes to the wheel of life, the your discussion, you're probably better off having an 8 in everything, because the wheel moves in the same direction symmetrically. You're not going to get off balance by something being a 2. I'm right in saying that. So although you don't mind in finance having a 2 and being able to, like my pension, I'm 42. I'd say my pension is 6 out of 10, but I have another 20 years if I really want to retire at 60 odd. I have 20 years to figure it out. So it's not supposed to be 10 out of 10. No. But you'd want to think in the financial, in the actual wheel of life, the way you're describing it, you'd want everything to be all the way through your life some way on the same level, would you? So you're kind of balanced. What a lot of people do is they're willing to tolerate a life of pain and uncomfortable so that at some point in the future they will be happy. So when you look at statistics, we're sitting here in the middle of the legal centre of the world. Yes. Okay, coming in here, I saw all these barristers, lawyers walking around. Their profession alone is notorious. By the time they retire, most lawyers have an expectancy year of less than 8 years beyond that. Yeah. It's shocking, because they've spent so much of their life in stress cortisol. So what we were told growing up was, put your head down, work hard, grind it out, get into a miserable job. Once it's safe, hang in there, be miserable, and when you're 65, retire. Yeah. But you have 900 months in your life, and you sleep 300. You only get 600, mate. Most people stress all their life in a job they don't like, saving for something down the road, and then what happens is they retire and they're dead within a few years.
So it's not always about, and you know me, Paul, because you manage my finances. I'm not reckless, and I do need to save, and I have 2 young children, so I have to keep an eye on the future. But we have to be, living in a way.
Now,
Yeah. So peace, joy, love, fun, a job that you love doing should not be something that you're waiting to experience in 20 years' time.
Yeah.
All of these things we can experience now. So in the wheel of life. But even your pension might be 6 out of 10, but it's 10 out of 10 for what you need it to be now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's in sport we call them key performance indicators. So you look at an Olympics athlete, you look at any one of their measurements, a year out from the Olympic Games, you kind of said this guy will never make it because his speed and all his numbers is way down. But he has a plan mapped out. And I think that's what, whether you want to be, 65 years old and super healthy, start now. Yeah. And it's never too early to start working on finance or health. It's just, there's a great expression that says, the future doesn't just happen. The future is a manifestation of every decision you make every day. Mm. And to Anthony Robbins, who we all know, says, if you want to know why you are where you are, look at your last 1,000 decisions. That's the place to start. So every single day, what's an empowering decision that not just builds for the future, but also allows me to experience more joy, more love, more freedom in this present moment.
Well, I was going to say, for listeners today, I think it's important from what I've been working with you for nearly 4 years, like I said, from COVID in 2020. And what I found was really good was that you can do this with working with Gerry or somebody or whatever, but this is not a pitch for Gerry, but I always felt that the high performance element of what you bring or brought to my life, say, over the last 4 years, was for athletes only. Remember, starting to work with you, we started looking at sleeping, we started looking at sleep coaching. You do breathing, people come in and do breathing exercises, getting blood tests done to make sure everything's okay. Obviously the physical exercise, your mental, and you don't need to be an athlete to feel it, because like you remember you saying to me, you're like an athlete, you're going to work every day and you're putting the same hours in. Okay, someone's going to running track and running for the Olympics, but you're putting the same effort in the day, and that person's looking after themselves well more just because they're running. And I wasn't looking after myself that well because I'm just in an office and so I think for listeners it's great to kind of get across that we are all our own athletes, really, no matter what you do, whether you're a stay-at-home mum, whether you're a business person, whether you're on the road, whatever it is, that is your kind of Olympic goal, is what you're doing for yourself on a daily basis, especially for business owners or anybody, even if you're in as a PAY worker and you're trying to strive and get promoted through working that. But I think when you're in that environment, you always focus on that head down, work. But if you were the athlete, you'd have all that support, but you can build that support.
You can build your support. The kickback I get is, it's okay for you, Gerry, you have money, you can build a support team around you. My support team is very small.
Yeah.
I train every day. You've seen me, Paul, in a shed with a...
Or when you're back home out the backyard with the same punch bag that you had since you were a kid.
I was on there this morning, but in Dublin, I have a freestanding bag that I bought in Mick Dowling's, and I've had it since the start of COVID.
Yeah.
And I go out there every morning. I practice meditation. I box. I use visualization.
It's all free.
All free. And there is so many people giving away this stuff for free. I did an Instagram live this morning, a guy called The Human Garage.
Oh yeah, he's very good, isn't he? Yeah, I did see that.
Phenomenal. And what he's about is giving people free, simple tools that you can do. So all the way through the pandemic, I've kept all my clients going every morning, and all they need is the space of a yoga mat.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to buy the story.
Yeah.
That you need a big team around you, or that I don't have space.
No, you can have the team, but you don't have to pay for it. Sorry, money isn't the objective.
So much resources.
You can look at online and find out how to do the deep breathing. You can look online for better sleep techniques. You can turn your phone off. You can not watch Netflix before you go to bed. There's so many simple things.
And what I would say is about the athletes, like Olympic gold medal is a nice thing, okay? It's nice to have it, and I know lots of lads, the people that went and got them. Would they trade that? If I said you can have your Olympic medal, or you can be present at your daughter's wedding. Suddenly the Olympic medal means nothing.
Wow, yeah.
So why would you put all that effort into an Olympic gold medal and not put it into being at your daughter's wedding? That is how serious I take this. So people often say to me, but between work and I have 2 young kids, I have no time. Because you've two young kids, you need to make the time. Because the greatest gift we'll give our children is not private schools and not the best of everything. It's our presence.
Yeah.
That we can be present with them, that we can play on the floor with them, we can laugh with them. And when they need us in years to come, we're there for them. So people say to me sometimes, I ask people, what would you do for people you love? I'd kill for my family. I'd die for my family. Don't be worried about dying for your family. Would you get healthy for your family? Would you eat better food for your family? Would you meditate for your family? Would you do a cold shower every morning for your family? Because those little things every day that are free and that you can do anywhere are going to transform your life. And all the statistics have shown that genetics plays such a tiny role in our health outcome. Lifestyle plays up to 80% of the role. So what are we saying? What am I saying is that anybody close their eyes down and ask yourself, over the next 20, 30 years, what are the biggest goals you'd like to achieve? And some of them are financial, and some of them you want to start your own business. And then ask yourself the really meaningful goals. How many of those goals require you to be healthy? And if you achieve those goals, but you don't have the health, what's the point? So it's trying to bring everything together. That's the wheel. It's never always going to be perfect. But the day I sat with you and you mapped out my finances, and it was like, if you stay doing what you're doing, Gerry, you're going to be running out of money here. And then I was panicking. And my natural reaction as a guy that likes to work is, I better work more. And you said, no, take a break. You're saying, just look at the way you're spending. What if you used to spend money differently?
Yeah.
So nothing changes except I just do things differently.
And fairness, you're dead right, because in financial planning is very rarely we have a client that come in and needs to put more money in. It's more just redirecting.
Exactly.
And you were kind of saying the same from an overall wellness point.
Well, I didn't have any more to put in, but it's redirected.
It's redirected. But you're saying from a wellness point of view in general, it's redirecting your energy. So maybe, redirecting into all things you mentioned, from the cold shower to the
15
meditation.
minutes every day.
Minutes,
and that's 1% of your time for people that like new numbers. Are you telling me that you're not worth 15 minutes a day, 1% of your time? You can still give away 99% of your time to the world. Are you telling me your children aren't worth 1% of your time? So when I wake up every morning, I don't always want to jump into an ice tank. I don't always want to do. But I close my eyes and I visualise myself at my daughter's wedding. I visualise myself being fit and healthy, walking her up the aisle. I see myself dancing with her. Now, 80% of whether it happens down to what I do this morning. That gets me out of bed. That's the kick in the butt. And because I know the hardest commodity out there is time at the moment. I know how busy life is. But 15 minutes to stop, to breathe. 1 minute in a cold shower. While you switch the kettle on, take 4 deep breaths. While you open your laptop, 4 deep breaths. All of these little things, and even throughout the day, every time you go to start a meeting, take 3 deep breaths. Every now and again, just stretch the body out. All of these little things keep taking you back out of stress mode, which is fight or flight, sympathetic state. And we know that for every second we're in the sympathetic state, which is fight or flight mode, our parasympathetic nervous system is switched off. And every time your parasympathetic nervous system is switched off, so too is your immune system. Your cells are not rebuilding, your genes are not rebuilding, you're actually actively getting sicker. So the more micro moments, the more tiny moments throughout the day, you stop, you breathe, you reset your body language, you listen to your stories, and you reset. It's like a golfer. A golfer goes around the course, he'll make loads of mistakes.
Has to keep resetting.
It's not about the mistakes you make, it's about how quickly you reset. We'll all get angry, we'll all get fed up, we'll all get frustrated. How quickly can we reset once we do?
For those that follow me on Instagram, you might have seen me playing golf twice this week. I put a picture up of myself playing twice this week, and I can honestly say I had to reset myself about 112 times in the first 9 holes. There was a lot of bad shots in there. Okay, let me see. How to find work-life balance. That's you can take that one.
Yeah, I think for me, it's take the work-life balance out of it, because you can't separate yourself from your work. So the only person I can balance is me. So work will be crazy at times, but I don't need to be crazy. Anybody that suffers from anxiety will know that you can be in a very calm environment and you can feel highly anxious. People who suffer from depression will know that you can be in the middle of a great night out, you can be, everyone around just having great fun, and you feel really down. What we know is that the external world doesn't determine how we feel on the inside. So I can't control the outside world. So the only balance there is I can balance me. I can balance my nervous system through breathing. I can balance my gut through healthy eating. I can balance myself through exercise. So when I wake up in the morning, Gerry's a dad, Gerry's a business owner, Gerry is a son, he's a brother. But I don't worry about all those roles. I just ask, can I turn up into those roles as the best version of me? Calm, joyful, ambitious, grateful. So when you balance yourself, it's easier go from one environment to another, because what you're doing is you're bringing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of this idea that you go to work and you're one type of person, then you come home. But that's very difficult. So I just use tools that balance the stress, not just at work, but house can be stressful. Young kids can be stressful. So the only balance there is me. I need to balance my thinking, my emotions. I need to balance my nervous system. I need to balance my gut. And when I'm balanced, I don't really mind what I'm doing. I don't mind if I'm Gerry the dad, I can get down on the floor and play with the kids. If I'm Gerry the speaker, I can get up and speak in front of 1,000 people. If I'm Gerry the business owner, I can jump on a call and have a business call.
Yeah.
But it starts with me being balanced. That's the only balance there is.
Yeah, I think it's the balance, probably the presence maybe, that when you're there, you're actually there. I really struggle with that one, trying to make sure you're not at work mode or you're at home with the kids, and when you're on the ground and the phone is still there. Like, I've kind of learned over the last while that, you know, it can actually wait till tomorrow, the phone call. There's nothing really on fire. I think sometimes you can keep yourself in work mode a bit too long. That's just a tip that I've picked up. I actually try and leave the phone sometimes off, not regular enough I must say, but sometimes off or in the car for a while. Okay, this is a really good question actually. We might both be able to answer this from your point of view, from the kind of psychology point, and mine from the financial side. And it is, how do you leave a job you're miserable in when you have a family depending on you? I might go first and then you might go. So from a financial planning point of view, if it was me, I'd try and see, can I ease myself out of that job? And whether it's into a second job or you're trying to go out as a kind of, on your own, I would probably see, can I do a little bit of the weekends, a little bit in the evening times, and build up my sole trader business if that's what you're going to do. If you were going to go for another job and you're going to leave, I mean, it should be relatively easy to obviously look for a job before you leave this job. If you have a family in particular, you don't leave yourself in a financial planning situation where you have no income coming in. So I do think it's important to step out, get out. Also try to find out what you need. So sometimes what I mean by that is a lot of people don't know how much money they need on a monthly basis, believe it or not. They know the mortgage is there, the bills are in the background, and they have a rough figure. But let's say you have mortgage, if two incomes coming in or one income coming in, you have a mortgage, €1,500-1,600 a month, you've got your normal bills, maybe a car loan on top of that, and maybe a creche fee or two. You might say you need 3,500. If you're lucky to have maybe 5,000 or 6,000 coming in, you can obviously then know your finances, where you can take a little bit of a career backward step. Like, you cannot take the job for the same level, and you might be easier to move. I think people are always focused on making more money every time they move in their career. It's okay sometimes to take a step back if you need to take a step back once you have the finances in place. But I would say be very, very careful. You don't want to bring stress. If you're having a hard time in work and it's miserable, you don't want a miserable financial planning existence while you're struggling in work. So I'd put my head down, try and save as much as I could, try and get the second job or the next job lined up. Or if I was going out my own, like I said, try and see, can I set up the business on the side while I'm still working but income coming in. Gerry, what would you say from a kind of well-being point?
Yeah, I would agree. It depends on what you're leaving. So if you're leaving for another job, I would say just line up to the job and go. It's seamless enough. If you're starting your own business or you're starting a startup, you're becoming self-employed, I would do exactly what you're doing, Paul. I would begin to set something up while I'm working, whether that's in the evenings. I'd be beginning to build the basis of something, test the market. Is there a need for this? I think we've all done that. Is there an appetite for this? And you might find that even by testing the water, the business you thought you were going to start actually leads to something different. So give yourself that time. So it's a case of what, how, why and when. What would I like to do? How could I make that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that important? And when? And the when becomes irrelevant. For a lot of people stuck in a job, the biggest stress is they feel stuck. The moment you know you're leaving, and the moment you can see your business, and the moment even if that's 3 years down the road, there's a lightness comes in.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I'd 100% agree with that. I'd write the plan down, and you'll actually get a lot of encouragement out. And even meeting those little markers, like maybe even a simple thing of meeting with an accountant or a financial planner to make sure everything's in order, or meeting with enterprise owner if you're going to set your own business up. Those little things along the way, once they're written down, you start ticking them off. they become a lot easier for you to achieve. Okay, the next question is really good. It's probably one of the best questions I've got, because a lot of many people talk about this. I've never actually got the question in. And I'm actually after writing down here on the laptop what, why, how and when. And it kind of comes into this one as well. Advice to define enough. Okay? Stop the always more carrot. There's obviously someone in that rat race, as you say. So just to repeat that again, advice to define enough. I suppose from a financial planning point of view, everyone's going to be different, as in you need enough to have the lifestyle you want. But you need to know how much of enough is in a financial plan. If you're bringing home, net income after tax at $3,000 a month, and you have, a mortgage and a few things going out, if you want that $3,000 a month, you know exactly how much you want from what age, 50, 55, 60, 65. The shorter time frame, the more you have to save. The longer the time frame, the less you have to save. So I would think from a financial planning, we'd always find out what the client is actually lifestyle is now, and making sure they can keep that lifestyle forever, as in up to 90 or 100 years of age, to be fair. But I think I'm going to answer your part of this question for you, Gerry. For you to define what is your enough, you're probably going to go back into what, why, how and when, as in what do you want to do, am I right?
Exactly. It's what makes you happy. I think the ultimate success is happiness. So what makes you happy? And happiness is, do I feel safe within myself? Do I do enough of things that bring me joy? Do I spend enough time with the people I love? Have I enough to eat? And can I close my door at night time and not be afraid someone's going to bang on the door for money? You're probably out the jackpot. There's a huge science behind, and you know this better than me, Paul, because we've discussed it before. There's a number at which people, Maslow's hierarchy of need, food, shelter and longing. So let's say we say that number is 55,000. Once all of those markers are met, so there's enough food in my fridge, I'm paying my mortgage, the people in my house are safe, no amount of money beyond that can add more than 1% to your happiness.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky and unlucky enough to know that I now get to work with people who are uber wealthy, but they're not uber happy.
Yeah.
And since I got to know them, their financial wealth has multiplied by 100, but their happiness hasn't.
Yeah.
And what you realise is, why are we chasing more money?
Yeah.
So a bigger house. Well, do you need a bigger house? So I think there's a lot of expression says, the wealthiest of all men is he who knows he has enough.
Yes.
So what is enough? So for me, financial freedom was always, I have a few indicators. Every now and again, I mean only now and again, go into a restaurant and be able to order without looking at the price first. Because that was always the way I had to order. I always had to order. And it's those little things.
Joe, you're right, the little things. I remember, I think everybody listening will probably know, so you follow me, a picture that we sold our business a couple of years ago. And I remember the money in the bank account was great. But so what the little thing was, I went and bought 12 iPhone chargers for each room in the house because I was so annoyed at losing my charger all the time. And that's the simplest thing. Yeah. And I bought some really mad stuff. But that was actually, I'll always remember that going, this is great. I could actually go in and buy 12 Apple chargers for each room just so I know when I walk in I have a charger. I know it might sound ridiculous, but I was able to get that bugbear on my, because I'm forever taking leads out of one room into the next or into the office. It's just something everyone in the family gets frustrated with. Or when the kids are sleeping over at someone's house or bringing the charger with them without bringing it back. Yeah. But yeah, it's those little things, you're right, that you can do.
And the only other thing I'd say about enough is, and you've always said this, Paul, and very often you work hard, you start earning more money. The danger is your spending habits increase. And we're all guilty of that. And that's crazy, because suddenly, most people listen to this, when we were in college, we didn't have a bean, and I used to be in Drumcondra, and I'd go into wait till Tesco was nearly shut because the cooked chickens and the bread were being sold off for next to nothing. And I literally was living week by week, day by day.
Happiest times?
There are often days I look back and say, now I'm living in a lovely house now, and in many ways I have way more money, but I'm actually way more happy. I don't think so. So I think for people, it's to realise that the temptation as we earn more money is to spend stuff that we want but don't need. The very happy people know what they need. They don't really go chasing anything else. Yeah. And if you don't need it, what the hell are you doing?
Funny enough, the one thing that came in here as well was another question following on from that question was how to stop the comparison trap re money. aside from they could be leveraged. And you're really into just thinking about other people rather than yourself in that situation, to be fair. And I've been in that hero loads of times. Remember, even before the financial crash, half the country was more obsessed with what kind of car you were driving and your house and all that type of stuff. And it was a real problem with the Celtic Tiger. But yeah, I think that money comparison, the money trap, and aside from thinking they could be leveraged, don't worry about them. What are you doing? It doesn't make a difference what your neighbour is doing. And yeah, most times you see new cars, they are leveraged, they are borrowed. That person hasn't got a new car, they have a new car loan. That's one way to look at it if that's the way you're looking. But I would try and stay away from thinking about what other people are doing. I think get your own, whether it's your financial plan or your personal development plan in place. I want to be here in 3 months time, 6 months time, 12 months time, 10 years, 15 years, and doubling down on that. I think when you look at other people, I find when people get into that frame of mind, they're not concentrating on themselves enough, and they haven't got their own financial plan, and they haven't got their own personal development plan, they haven't got their own career plan, they haven't got the plan to set the business up or whatever they've always wanted, and they're just too kind of distracted looking at other people. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. And you know, I saw a great image once of a guy in a rowboat, and he's in a small little rowboat in the lake fishing, and he's sitting back, sun's on his face, and he's happy as a lord. And then I showed this video, and then the next clip of a guy in a beautiful yacht in somewhere like Monaco, and he looks miserable. And the reason he looks miserable is another yacht twice the size of that pulling beside him. So it's like the middle guy was the unhappiest.
Yeah.
Because the guy in the rowboat had no aspiration. He didn't need a bloody yacht. He was on a rowboat. He was out fishing. He was thoroughly enjoying it. So there's I can't think of the name of it. There's a beautiful poem I might share it later, but it talks about when you compare yourself, there'll always be people bigger. There'll always be people smaller. Rich or poor, and as long as you're comparing yourself to no one, to someone else, you're in no man's land.
Yeah.
No matter how rich you get, there's going to be someone richer.
Yeah.
So what are you chasing? And if you need to be the richest person in the world, who even knows? There's no richest person in the world, because everyone's just an estimate of numbers. And it's changing every minute. Like, so what is it? So think of the guy in the rowboat. He's sitting back. His boat's probably worth 400 quid.
But he's still the same lake.
Smile on his face. He's on the
same lake. He's in the same place.
I didn't even think of that. And the guy in the middle is looking miserable because he's comparing himself to
two on each side.
You got to just know what you want, know why you want it, know why that's important, and know when enough.
Very good. On that thought, we will leave it there for today's guys. Gerry, thanks a million for coming in and sharing your wisdom.